Hello, this is Chris Park from Arkin Game. I'm gonna hit start game now. Arkin Games, not Arkin Game. And so now this is the interface that you are first presented with. You can hit tab just like in the first game to go and see the part of the galaxy map that you can see. You'll notice there's some stuff down here. We're gonna get to all of these sections as we go. Now, again, this is meant to be ugly but functional. And if you love it when it's ugly, you'll love it when it's pretty. But we don't want you accidentally loving it just because it's pretty. We're not going to talk about the back quote menu at the moment because that's something that Keith is actively working on. So let's talk, I guess, about the right-hand side of the screen at the moment. So we've got control groups and we've got squads. And instead of ever showing how many ships explicitly are in a squad, Keith has opted to make it so that it just shows what the strength is, which I think is a sensible thing. Because if you really want to, you can go in and visually see how many ships are in a squad. And I guess there's not really any place where we're explicitly showing the ship count, period, here. But and yes, we're going to talk about those tooltips. But and we're going to talk about the top bar. We're going to talk about everything. But for now, this is where we are. I'm gonna just we're going to talk about this too, but I'm just going to crank in a few new things so we can see on the sidebar what we've got. One thing to bear in mind is that we are going to be getting rid of the flare. We're almost done with that now, where these icons before had like the space dock icon and then these little star things here, the flare, that say what the what type it is. So this is like a starship constructor versus it would be the same icon minus the flare if it was a space dock. It was an idea of mine, didn't work out. So okay. So what that means is that the pieces of information that go on this sidebar are what is the ship, the color of it is indicating, so there's an icon for a type of ship now, no flare. That's what's going to be the case soon. There is a mark level, but should we show that? Should we not? The first game we did that get overwhelming? It can be helpful to know that there's a lot of high mark stuff at an enemy planet, or oh gosh, I'm down to just my mark 1 whatevers when you're looking at the sidebar. And right now we can't see that. Shows in a way too large number, I feel like, how many squads you have of each of these things. It's telling me that I've got 17 squads, and all right, fine. But what is the strength? Like, that to me doesn't really mean anything, and it also doesn't translate into what I'm seeing down here at all. The strength is coming from these 17 squads, but how much strength is each thing? I mean, I guess maybe I can hover, and nope, doesn't tell me the strength there either. So that'll be a tooltip issue for later, but all right. It's got control groups. It's automatically put some of my stuff into a control group 1. But I just selected my fighters and I just put those into control group 2. That's control group 2, right? Oh God, that is control group 2. However, it's showing a 4 because there's 4 fighters in it. My. I mean, what on earth happens if I select these and put them in control group 2? Okay, so now it's showing a count of 5 things for control group 2, and it's showing the icon for fighter mark 1, probably because that's the majority of what's in there. When I select this, it gives me all my guys. But it's a mixed control group. It's not just the one. So Why is it doing that? I'm not a fan of this control groups bit. Keith uses control groups extensively, and with good reason. He's a proponent of everybody using them more because it's a really convenient way of um, having your arc move around and have ships spawn out into its control group and so forth, which these ones didn't. There's some way to make it do that, but um, that setting's not turned on, and I don't know offhand how to turn that on. We've moved around the interface so many times that I have no clue, but that would have been handy. My arc is on the move and it's churning out stuff. Um, set to not looping for some reason. Then these would pop out in its own control group. That would have been nice, but um, so I set all of those to be control group 1, and I guess because the arc is so important, it's put that at number 16. But I don't know. Over here in the sidebar, I don't know what this sorting is. And I don't know what sort of sorting we do want. I assume, want the king units like front and center, at the very top of the list, and maybe structures should be next, and then maybe like mobile ships. We probably don't want to be sorting on number of ships in a squad, or number of squads in a icon, because if we did, then this sidebar is going to be bouncing around all the time, and you've seen those like joke videos, which are unfortunately so true, where it's like you're about to click one thing like the download link, and then an ad loads in, and then whoops, you click the ad, and it's that sort of thing where it's like, all right, I'm going to click this guy. Oh, one died. Or one got built or whatever. And now I've clicked the fighters instead. So we don't want that. So we could order these alphabetically, but we're not really showing the names there. I guess if you already know the names, then showing it alphabetically would make sense. We're also showing all of your stuff and then all of the enemy stuff. And I'm assuming that allied stuff gets shown in the middle, which is what we did on the other one. But I don't know if we're showing it broken out by individual faction. I mean, I'm seeing my color green here, which is nice. If I click over to an enemy planet, we'll talk about the interface on the galaxy map in a separate video. I click over here and I see their color for the AI Sentinels. Interestingly, the shading is worked out a little differently between the two. But so I can see all of their different things. This looks extra confusing right now because of the flare, so please just disregard that. Interestingly, it's still showing my control groups up here, even though those are not on this planet at all. I guess it's kind of useful. I can just click right here and boom, I'm at that control group on whatever planet it's on. I mean, that's handy, but that seems like kind of an advanced feature or something. I guess it should be at the very minimum, like in clearly a separate panel, like here's what's at this planet, and then like here's all your control groups. So we need like a concise way of saying that. Plus, what do I have selected? Like I've got these guys selected. I'm thinking that over in this same area, we should be talking about here's your current selection. In the first game, we did that with text. It was like you got 5 fighter Mark 1s, their overall health is at 80% right now, or things like that. And I kind of liked that, to be honest. I don't know how everybody else here feels about it, but yes, it's inconsistent with the icon display that we're showing elsewhere, but it was a scrollable list, and to some extent, it was just kind of easier to read. since it was, if you don't know the hieroglyphics, you can read, fighters, this, that, the other, quicker. I don't know if we want to do that, or if that's something that's going to need to be an option for some people want it, some people don't, or, what are we going to do? So when I click over to, let's try some other ones here. So, all right, we've got this thing that's not owned by anybody. This is a cursed golem. Interestingly, even though even though I don't have visibility on this planet, I'm able to see the stuff on the sidebar, so that's a bug. But let's click around a little bit here. Okay, so this isn't even sorted by faction because we've got a stealth starship Mark V owned by there's a flagship. So that's just a flagship that's ready for capture. That's a big deal when you get one. And now that's interesting. This one here, this Shield Guardian, its coloring matches everything else. The rest of these guys are much redder. That's peculiar. That's really peculiar. Doesn't really matter, but it's worth noting that that's peculiar. I don't know where the Warden fleet is at the moment. That starts at the AI home planet, kind of heads your way, and so you've got a while before it shows up. It doesn't come into your territory anyway. It hangs out and makes life miserable nearby. But I'm not. If there were two different AI colors, here we'll do this. We'll quit out. Again, we'll talk about these other. Oh, I don't have it. Hold on, I'm going to pause this for a second. Okay, so now I actually have some save games in here. So I'm going to load up this big battle midst one. So in this case, I think I'm gold, maybe? Yeah, I'm gold. And for whatever reason, it's showing me lower than the AI. It seems a little backwards, but I don't know. Then it's showing the AI all mixed together. So this is all my foes, and they're all mixed together. I kind of like that. I like that, like, all my foes mixed together and their strength, and then me and all my friends and our strength mixed together. That would kind of make sense to me. I like that. And I like seeing the count of squads and the total strength. I think that gives a good idea of the matchup. Within these sections, having these things be ordered in a way that makes sense, probably by faction, whether that's me and a friend in the me and allies section, or me and a friendly AI down here, and then the different AIs up there. That makes sense. So these things here, these are AI Sentinels. Cool. This is the AI Warden fleet. Cool. And I can go right on in and see, a whole bunch of what's going on. So there's a lot I do like about that. When I hover over this, I really would prefer to see more information about this kind of next to it, honestly. Now, that is a good question for our UI designers. Regardless of whether our tooltip is here or down here, should our tooltip make our eyes go all the way over to the left side of the screen, just so it's in a consistent place and not blocking the middle of our view? Or should it be nice and close, but also inconsistently placed, and kind of lining up with the mouse cursor? Should this be at the mouse cursor? That's another way of putting it. Should this be an entirely new tooltip type that instead of showing the type of tooltip that we're seeing over there on the left, we're seeing this little tooltip at the mouse cursor that's saying like, yeah, that's 11 MLRS Guardians Mark 1, and their total strength is 200, 2000, and their total health is 80%, and their total they belong to the AI Warden fleet. And it doesn't give us any of that other information about like what exactly is an MLRS Guardian and all that sort of thing, but it tells us some basics right there at the mouse cursor. I'm kind of thinking that having a dual tooltip system like that would make sense, where we have a sidebar specific mini tooltip that when I hover over this right at the cursor, it's popping up as small a tooltip as it can manage, saying AI Sentinels, Spider Turret Mark 1, 3 of them, 2,000 strength, or 3 squads, 2,000 strength, 100% health at present, and that's it. And it's just this little 2, maybe 3 line thing that's right there at the mouse cursor, and then it can also show the big old normal cursor way over there. But that way, if I want the full information, my eyeballs can go traveling. And if I don't care about the full information, I just want to know the information that is really related to the sidebar that actually is not even in the big tooltip over there on the left, and I don't think should be. My eyeballs don't have to go anywhere far. They just can go right with the cursor. And so my eyes can stay right here with the cursor, just tracking over this, going, okay, that's that, that's that, that's that, that's that. Okay, 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 okay. And so I can understand what's going on. One of the things that I don't understand when I'm looking at this right now is what mark levels are these? And, the numbers are so big in terms of the counts of them that it's hard to see, how many of these things there are. But how do we get around that? Because the way that we show, and by the way, I do not want to show health bars in the sidebar. I think that would get nasty, and it would need to be updated too frequently, I think. But basically, in this sidebar, either we should collapse all of the mark levels so they're not shown. So if we have 3 different mark levels of tractor turret, those should all show up inside one icon. So when I hover over that tractor turret icon, it's like tractor turrets marked 1 through 4 or something like that. And maybe a way to represent that would be we put a little Mark 1 symbol here and a little Mark 4 symbol here if it's marks 1 through 4. And if it's Mark 1 through 1, we just show Mark 1, Mark 1. And maybe that's how we do it. That's inconsistent with how we're doing this because we've got the mark level straight down and underneath. And I know that consistency is a big deal in UI design. But if we were going to do a range, that would make sense. We could do a range down here where it's like 1 through 4, and the numerals are somewhat, they're not color coded. Unlike the first game, we're not color coding the numerals because we're color coding the numerals to mean something else. So, as you can tell. So if we did that, then it would be the question of where do we put the count number, and how do we make sure that it's clear that it's a count number? And usually it's handy to right align a number like that and make it say X whatever. So X6, X I think that's 45, but I don't know if that's X 124. I have no idea. But I mean, I know that just from a general UI design standpoint, if numbers are common and they're in columns, then right aligning them makes the bigger ones stand out more. And that we can, if you put an X beside it, then we know, there are X number of these. But if we put the X there, we got to make the font even smaller, and that's not good. There's also times when there's like a ton of different types of ships to the point where it overflows downwards in a way that is highly negative. We can get around that some by adding more columns that go across, or by making the icon smaller, but those are undesirable in other ways. So yeah, that's just the sidebar. Um, so topics for this one are how we show the control groups in the sidebar, how we show the sidebar in general with all the different pieces of information. Let's go ahead and lump when you've selected ships, how does that show in there? Because I think that's really all the same part of the interface. And do we do which I think it really would make sense to do a second mini pop-up that's anchored to the mouse cursor that gives you specific info about the thing you're hovering over, where you're hovering over it. And anything else you guys think of. Like I said before, rip us a new one.